Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. So for this week's episode, we had Negan coming to Alexandria. And just, once again, exerting dominance. Because he actually pops up a week early to get, like, his cut of everything. And then he's just, showing his dominance by being like, whoa. You don't get to say like, oh, I only get, this, and this. It's like, no, I decide what I get to take. And just, like I said, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, dude, every time I look at it, I'm seeing Papa Winchester. I'm like, why do you have to be such a bad guy, Papa Winchester? You were such a good guy trying to get revenge for your wife, just all this, you were such a good guy. You weren't always you weren't the best at being there for your kids, but you still cared about them and everything. You were still a good father. And it's just, every time I look at him, it's just a reminder of and seeing Negan. And the fact is that he's having so much fun. What I really love is just the things he did. He literally had Rick walk around with Lucille. The same thing he used to bash in Abraham and Glenn's heads. It's like, I want you to hold on to it. I know you won't do anything because you're a little puppy and you won't do anything. You won't bare your fangs at your master because you're scared. Because if you tried anything, I would beat you into submission. I would kill everyone that you care about, type of thing. And it's just, that's the type of level of just evil that he's at. Like, I want you to carry the weapon I used to kill your friends, your family. I mean, because Glenn was more than just a friend. He was family. And I'd go as far as saying Abraham was. That's what this whole group has become. A very interesting family, at the very least, to say that. And it's just, there were moments you could see him gripping the bat. He wanted to do it because Rick knows he can't do anything, because if he does, it means killing everyone that he cares about, because it's a battle they cannot win, especially now that Negan has taken every gun that they have. It's like, oh, you want to have knives? Sure, keep your knives, but every gun you own is mine now. Mainly because that got sparked by the fact is that Carl was like, no, these guys are trying to take our medicines. They're supposed to take half of what we have, not all this medicine and stuff like that. And then Negan's like, oh, the balls on this kid. Okay, Rick. You need to get your people in line. It's just like, I thought we had this whole conversation. Am I going to have to? He's like, he even says to Carl, it's like, you see me get serious. You don't want me to get serious with you now, do you, kid? And it makes even Carl back down. It's just, you see it on everyone's faces, because it's like, the thing is, the show, they didn't even show you the conversation where Rick came back, beaten down, defeated, broken, all the entire group coming back broken. It's just kind of fast forwarded. It's been like, I mean, the fact is, because they're supposed to give supplies like every 2 weeks. It's only been, he's like a week early. I think it's every 2 weeks. I mean, but still, so meaning it's only been a week since that whole thing went down, like in the first episode. So, but like I said, we haven't really seen them adjusting, because this is their first time, like everyone at Alexandria being like, oh, witnessing the saviors in action. Because everyone that was there with Rick is kind of like, nah, we're not about to. Even Rosita, it's just like, you see her being a little defiant, but even she backs down. There's just no one's willing to like do anything, because it's like they're outmanned and they are outgunned. And there was even that point, like it was when he's taking all the guns and everything, and they look through the checklist, they're asking Olivia. It's just kind of like, oh, wait a minute. She takes such extensive notes. It says there are 2 handguns missing. Oh, this is bad. And Rick's trying to be like, well, there's some people who left and everything. He's like, this is her job. You are screwing up at your job. Do you realize that keeping up with the amount of weapons is the difference between life and death? I guess he's like, I'm going to have to make an example of it. You even see Rick at one point looking out the window, and you see Negan right next to Olivia, like ready to kill her at any moment if he has to. I was scared. I was like, oh God, because he's got his gun in his hand. Like, he got that gun. He's like, I hope you've been keeping my guns well maintenance, make sure that they work well and everything. He pointed it at Daryl. Daryl didn't flinch or anything, and Daryl just kept going, and he just lifts the gun up and fires it at Widow. It's like, oh boy, that's good. He's like, oh, I might have to. I gotta be careful. I don't want to make Lucille jealous now. And also when Father Gabriel popped up and everything, it's like, God, wow, you were just creepy as shit, popping up out of nowhere with that creepy ass smile of yours. It's just like, you see him kind of exuberating, just that kind of, I am top dog. Man, we're going to get along fantastically. But the fact of the matter is, he flipped out about 2 missing guns, because even the rest of them were like, why do they care about 2 guns? The fact of the matter is, they could wipe us out if they wanted to, so what does it matter about 2 guns? They got all the other guns. The thing is, that's the point. For one, Negan gets his way. If he wants every single gun and he finds out there's guns missing, it's like you're spitting in his face. It's like you're saying, like, oh, we're not listening to you. We don't really understand what you're saying to us. And you never want Negan to feel like you don't understand him. Because he almost caught that moment at the beginning as like, little piggies, let me in. And then Spencer standing there like, so who are you? He's like, you have got to be kidding me. Really? Spencer is lucky Rick came up pretty quickly. Like, I feel like he'd been like, he even went as far as being like, Rick, up here being rude to me. Now, I could have stood here, because of Spencer's rudeness and everything. Like, I could have been here. I could have killed me a ginger. But you know what I did? I killed this walker that could have been a danger to your people, because I'm that much of a nice guy. Even going to the point of being like, the fact of the matter is, it's like, okay, I'm going to leave you your food. You know why? Because if you guys starve to death, I won't get what's owed to me. So I'm going to leave you your food for now, because then eventually you'll be able to make up for the fact is that you got your own food, so you'll be able to give it to me. But for now, so you guys don't starve to death, you get to keep your food. And then he's like, so say what? He's like, so what do you want me to say? I want you to say thank you. But kind of getting back to the whole gun situation, is it's also because it's like, he wants them to feel powerless. He doesn't want even a smidge of fight left in him, because he wants to break them down. That's kind of the whole point. And even have Daryl kind of broken down in this episode, because you have Rick being like, we helped you out and everything. We gave you all the guns. Because you even had Rick take that sniper rifle that Michonne had, that she was going off practice. And I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing. Even Rick was like, I know what you're going to do. The whole point of that is her trying to get ready for when it's time to take out Negan. But it's like, as we saw, she was not good at it. And it was like, she took probably a little less than a dozen shots, and it was like she couldn't hit the walker. So it's like, with Negan, you got one shot. If you waste it, you're wasted anyway. But even then, they had that mob mentality. You kill Negan, Negan still lives, because each and every single person that is under his command is Negan. So even if you take Negan out, you still have to worry about everyone else. If you want to take them out, you have to wipe out every single savior. It is the only way. But the fact is, Rick took that gun from her. It was like, if he finds out that we had this gun, because it's not even theirs, it actually originally belongs to one of the, the saviors, as they took it from that compound that they raided, last season. It's like, he took that. They took that, and it's like, they wouldn't know about it. Because I was wondering why that never popped up on the list. I was like, why is that? Because it was from the Savior. So obviously, Michonne just kind of held it hidden away. And, but then Rick was like, no, we're going to give it to him. And the moment he did, he's like, oh man, now that's good, Rick. I think we're finally getting to understand each other a little better. You gave this to me. This is good work, Rick. This is really, really good work. And even like going as far as being like, you see that? Michonne bringing the deer and everything, which is another thing, proof of what was happening. Like, she looked in the forest and found the deer that she shot with one of the shots that she missed trying to hit that walker. So it's like I said, you got one opportunity, and to me, I wouldn't have wasted the ammo. I would have been like, all right, I failed the first time, so I got to try it again later. I can't be, you can't be trying it multiple times, but I guess, it's practice and everything, so that's the point. But nevertheless, even had, when it came to the deer and everything, niggas like, man, I love it. A woman brings me dinner and I'm not expected to put out or anything. He even said that messed up joke about Maggie being like, some women, after I kill their husbands and everything, they feel empty, but they don't feel empty for long. And I love the fact that they played it off like, yeah, Maggie, she's dead, which I already knew she wasn't. I'm like, oh yeah, like, because the fact is, I was like, we haven't seen Sasha, so she's over. She has to be over at Hilltop, because that was the whole thing. It's like taking Maggie to Hilltop, and it's like, what's going to suck is if Negan finds out that she's still alive. That's probably going to come back to bite him in the ass. But good thinking on Gabriel's part to kind of dig up a fresh grave to be like, yeah, oh man, ooh, Maggie, she's gone. He's like, oh, such a waste and everything. And then Negan later on says the most profound line, just saying like, I just stuck my dick down your throat and you thanked me for it. It's like, ugh. The metaphor, dude, it's like, holy crap. Like, just once again, the whole point of this episode is once again asserting his dominance. We saw how much of a psychopath he is, how much big and powerful he is with all the men and guns by his side, and now they're left with nothing to defend themselves. The only thing they have are probably any makeshift weapons they can have, because it's like, and even Negan himself is like, you better have something interesting for me when the next time I come. It's like, it's not enough to have the supplies he needs or whatever he's supposed to give to them. It's also about, hey, find me something interesting. And I think the reason why that is, maybe other groups have to do that too, but at the very least, when it comes to Negan, to at least Alexandria, Negan has kind of taken a special interest in them because they kind of fired the shots first. Even finding the rocket launcher, I was like, all right, you're the one that blew our people to bits. Wow, I'm going to have so much fun with this, Rick. And interesting enough, when you end up finding out, I was not, because I was thinking like, oh man, the two guns are not accounted for. Obviously, Dwight has them because he took it from Rosita and Spencer. But then like, no, those got counted as well. I was like, then where are the guns at? Because everyone's flipping out. It's like, okay, who has the guns and everything? It's like, yo, because even someone stands up, it's like, yo, so how are we going to get around this? And Rick's like, we're not. I'm not the leader anymore. Negan is. Like, we don't fight back. And ended up finding the guns in Spencer's house because he had hidden them away. Not specifically for this situation. He hid them away because when Rick originally came there back in in the second half of season 5 or whatever, he ended up hiding them away because he didn't want to take the chance that, because he thought, Rick would be dangerous as, if he ever became the leader and everything. So he stashed those weapons away for back then. And Rick is like, I'm not blaming you for stashing away the weapons and everything when Spencer came back and everything, which I'll get to that a little bit. So I don't blame you for that. But the food and drinks too, that's very weak of you. And he's walking away. He's like, yeah, I guess we're in paradise, huh, Rick? He's like, yeah, I'm sure Glenn and Abraham are happy about this. And then Rick stops. He's like, don't ever say that again. I will break your damn jaw if you ever say something like that again. Tell me you understand me. He's like, yeah, I understand. Because Spencer is the only one so far that has outright blamed Rick for their current situation. He's like, we could have made a deal with them back then. It's like, do you think you would have been better off or something? Like, which granted in the long run, maybe you would have. Be less people dead. Currently, the only people dead are Abraham and Glenn, but they're probably getting an even harsher treatment because of what Rick and the group did going after them hard like that. So Rick regrets it. Like, he blames himself for them deaths. And I'm sure a lot of people do, but no one's outright saying it. Because Michonne's trying to ease his mind. It's like, no, that wasn't your fault, basically, what happened to Glenn and Abraham. He's like, it was, I'm responsible for not just their deaths, but a lot of people's deaths. And it's like, that's on me, our current situation. You even have Father Gabriel kind of being like, the ray of hope, being like, hey, yo, we're going to get through this. All right. I have faith in you. And he's like, the fact of the matter is things change. Look at us. We weren't on the best of terms, but now we're kind of friends and everything. And he's like, I have faith in us. And I also have faith in you. Whether Rick doesn't really have much faith in himself right now. You saw it multiple times. Like, if he wanted to, he could have hit Negan at any point with Lucille, but he just couldn't, because what happened to Abraham and Glenn, it breaks his heart. It breaks his heart because it's like he doesn't want anyone to die. That's why he struggles so hard with that whole, like, Olivia situation. It's like she could have died, and he wasn't about to let anyone else, any more of his people die because of him, so that's why he struggled so hard to get to those guns. But also with the Rosita and Spencer situation, it's like literally, having Dwight take their guns and be like, okay, so I want you to go find Daryl's bike. You have a rough idea of where it is, don't you? Go to it. I was halfway expecting them to find Denise, but then I forgot about it. I was like, oh yeah, Denise got shot in the head. I mean, the arrow went through her head. I was like, so she's not coming back as a walker. Because, like, her body is nearby there. Sadly, well, I forgot, too. Like, they brought her back, too. So she's buried. I forgot. I was thinking, like, oh, the walkers must have got her. I was like, obviously they buried her. I forgot about that. But, being back on those train tracks had it, like, at first I was like, oh, man, Rosita's thinking about that. It's like, oh, that sucks. But then you end up finding out the real reason why she was okay with going out there, because she knew there was a couple of the saviors that died out there and the walkers and everything, killed them and ended up taking their guns off them. She kept one gun in particular, but it didn't have any ammo. But she comes to Eugene at the end of the episode with a bullet casing and it's like, make me a bullet. That was something that Eugene was pushing for. It's like, oh, they can make their own ammo. Let's hope. Oh, that might play a part in what they're offering Negan. The fact is that they can make ammunition. Letting Negan know about that could be considered something interesting or special. And you also had, Michonne kind of bringing up the fact is in this episode when she was talking to Rick, it's just kind of like, she was like, we can join with Hilltop, and then Rick was like, even with that, we still don't have the numbers. Because the fact of the matter is, they don't know how many other communities are being affected. Like I said, we know 3 so far: Alexandria, Hilltop, and the Kingdom. So those are the only ones we know of so far. But I'm saying, like, when it comes down to it, what's going to happen is, and I think that's going to be what how everything ends up playing out, is like they're going to come together. That's the only way they can stop Negan, is with numbers of their own. And even in a situation like that, not everyone is going to come out alive. It's going to be bloody, type of whatever situation. I do legitimately believe when it comes down to it, because I don't know how long the whole Negan situation is. I know he's in a comic book for a while. So I don't know anything about it. The way I've heard people talk about it, it almost seems like he is dead in the comic books. I don't know. I've avoided all things connected to Negan, like even when just looking up, because even Googling someone's name, because I got something spoiled about Gabriel, which I didn't look into it. It was just literally a Google search and I saw it auto-complete or something. I was like, whoa, okay, spoilers for that, right? But then, everything else is kind of like, because that's usually the biggest thing about the show is like, who dies. That's always something you have to be worried about when supposedly a character dies, which I'm not saying Gabriel dies or anything. I mean, truth be told is, like, it could easily say, like, oh, Gabriel killed so-and-so. I mean, because he was in that situation. All right, I don't know why I'm sitting here lying to your faces. Yeah, apparently he does die, but like I said, it's a comic book, it's a TV show. I mean, that might be a spoiler for what's going to happen this season, which kind of sucks, but because I was just trying to remember his name at one point, I accidentally looked that up, and so it's like auto-completed to died or whatever. So I don't know. Like, that's why I'm going to be like, nope, no more looking up people's names, because that's too deadly on the internet. That is too deadly because the spoilers are just too available. But I'm still picturing it in my mind. It's like the only way I'll be satisfied with this ending, the way this would end, is if you get Rick to be the one that puts Negan down with a bat, like being with Lucille. Like, it has to end that way, and maybe it will just for, I guess you could call it irony, justice, whatever you want to call it. Like, it has to end like that. The fact of the matter is, I think I dropped it earlier. The whole Daryl situation, I'm kind of getting back to that. Like, Daryl didn't speak up this entire episode. He was just quiet. So, between what happened in the last episode and this episode, I'm guessing Negan taught him something, because he didn't say a word. He wasn't defined. He could have easily spoken up, because this is not the Daryl we saw last episode. So, something definitely went down. So, and you can see, like, one shot is just being like Daryl looking out the back of the truck as they pull away, and then you have Rick looking towards him, and just like, it sucks all around. And then there was a very interesting conversation between between Rick and Michonne, where basically he brought up Shane, who he has not talked about in a very long time. Literally the last, I mean, to my knowledge, outright, Shane was only, last time he was referenced was season two's finale when, Rick killed him. That was literally the last time he was ever brought up. I mean, I could be wrong. He might have been referenced other points in time, but essentially the whole story was like, the fact is I was in the hospital. They didn't think I was alive, and Shane and Lori got together and everything. He took care of her and Carl, and I kind of appreciated him from him. But the fact of the matter is, he was with them. I was supposedly dead and everything, so he knows. He just knows that Judith isn't his, which I don't remember if that was ever brought up before. I really don't remember if that was ever brought up before, because. And if it was, I don't remember, because I don't remember ever thinking like, oh, Judith was never his. It never crossed my mind. But the fact is, he's openly be like, yeah, Judith's not mine. And I accept that, because she's still my little girl, like no matter what, because I'm going to raise her. I'm going to teach her how to survive, because I've got to keep her safe, also for Lori's sake, kind of as a remembrance to her and everything. So, which is that is something I do know that's different in the comic book. He never had a child with Lori in the comic book. Like, their child died when Lori died. The character Lily killed her in the comic books. It's roughly around the same time as the whole prison arc. Well, when the governor comes to take the prison and basically they end up having to leave the prison, around the time he kills Herschel and Tyrese, Lily ends up shooting Lori and killing her and their baby. It's kind of like this similar character, obviously a little different, that has appeared in the show also in the Telltale Walking Dead season 1. It's also technically that Lily. From my recollection, they have very different backgrounds. We never did ever find out. Like, I think her status, comic book wise, is still unknown. Like, it's not known whether she lived or whatnot. TV show purposes, I think she died. I think they consider her dead just because it's kind of like she kind of just gave up after she killed the governor. So, but nevertheless, moving on. The point of the matter is, it's like we have to accept our current situation. And Michonne was on like, okay, I'll try. Which it's hard to say whether she will or not, because we saw what they did. They stole all their mattresses, literally drove down the road and burned all of them, just to make a point. That's literally all Negan does. It's like, make a point. It's like, you're part of my game. This whole thing, it's my game, and you play by my rules. I'm the one that dictates how things work. I dictate how you move, live, breathe, essentially shit. You can't do any of that without my knowledge or my say-so, essentially. So, crazy episode of just, like I said, I can't give him enough credit. I really adore Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Like I said, my first time ever seeing him as a villain, and I think he's doing a very bang up job, because he's that type of villain that you love to hate. It's like you hate him, but at the same time you hate him because he's a twisted kind of funny, that he's that charming villainous character that like I said, I think I brought it up last time, but he's very different from his comic book, the comic book version of him, because he was more of a childish kind of psychopath, whereas this one, he's more of a charming, like, have his way, kind of tough guy villain. So, overall, I'm just very interested to see how everything plays out, like where everything goes from here. It's just like, Rosita's got that gun, she's about to make a bullet. I mean, really, the thing is, she making one bullet, because for her, the only thing that matters is killing Negan. So, kind of screw the consequences. Just because of Abraham, she wants him dead. From what I've seen, the little snippet I saw of the next episode, it does seem like it's taking place at Hilltop. So, I guess we're finally getting to see what Sasha is dealing with, while also about Maggie. Because I was wondering if we're going to see Jesus again in this season. I don't know if he's a mainstay character in the comic books or not. I think he is, because that whole thing with Glenn, like, possibly dying but coming back to life, apparently did a whole thing with Nicholas' body falling over him, and it looked like Glenn was being ripped apart, which like I said, I saw through that pretty quickly. But nevertheless, like, that type of like dead but coming back to life type of situation of like, oh, it seemed like they were dead but now they're actually alive. I think apparently that happens to him in the comic books or something like that, because I heard someone kind of reference that. I could be wrong or something. So I'm just curious to see, like, it's probably when his whole situation, however it plays out, runs its course. I'm actually look it up and like to find out like differences between the show and him in the comic books. But nevertheless, it does seem like Hilltop will be the next day because obviously the whole thing is like blow by blow finding out where everyone is. The second episode was about Carol and Morgan. Last week's episode about a little more about Dwight and Negan's operation, will also about Daryl. This episode, Alexandria. Next episode, Hilltop. Well, I mean, especially because the second episode also introduced us to the kingdom and everything too. So, like I said, I'm just very interested to see where everything goes this season. It's a crazy season so far. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. So, the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.